Hello, I'm Miss Castle. I'm going to be talking to you today about determining perspective and author's purpose. At this point, you have hopefully checked out Lesson 12 that's been provided to you. I'm hoping that you have taken the time to look at least this document here about Chief Joseph, excuse me. If you have not done so, I would highly recommend pausing this video and coming back to it at a later time after you've at least answered the questions and went through this and annotated. That's what I'm mainly going to be focusing on today. So I'm going to try and keep this video very short, hopefully with under like 5 minutes, 3 minutes. What I mainly want to go over is the best tips and tricks of how to determine perspective and author's purpose. Obviously, I have a few things highlighted here, which I feel that are the main focus points and things that you should look for when you are attempting to determine perspective and author's purpose. So the main tips and tricks for purpose, and purpose could be identified as just short, explain, inform, or to teach, or to persuade, I suppose in this case. And determine that you want to identify with these 4 things here, 5 things. You want to start with why. So starting with why is going to allow you to identify why the heck did the author write this piece? Why do we care? That's going to allow you to disseminate between the persuade, inform, entertain. Then it's going to allow you to really delve into figuring out, am I right? Is this really to persuade, and so forth? So why did the author write this piece? Considering the structure of the piece, when you look at the structure, that is going to allow you to identify how this author went about writing the piece. Is it going to have a lot of pictures? Is it going to have a lot of facts and modules? Is it going to have some tables along with it? And then you want to look at it as a whole as well. Did they have an interview? Did they start with a quote? These are going to be little clues that allow you to also check your work, whether or not you're correct in, correct in your determining author's purpose. Check your heart. So this means that you're looking for feeling. So did they pull at your heartstrings? Did they make you feel happy? Did they make you feel sad? Anytime that you feel anything, that's going to be a major detector that the author was trying to portray some sort of mood. And I put in this document that mood always equals me. That is a good way for you to remember that mood is the way that the author wants you to feel. So I always tell my students mood equals me. Look for changes to the purpose. So if at the beginning of the piece the author could start out with an anecdote or something that's maybe lighthearted, but by the end of it they're having like a call to action of some sort, that's definitely a change in tone and a change for the purpose as well. So you want to be able to identify that and mark that. And then finally, always be looking for figurative language. That should just be something that's become habit for you. You should be marking these things as you're reading them. So when you're identifying for a purpose, you really want to look for the why, as I said. And then this, it was very easy to identify that he wanted to persuade. And I was able to pick up on that because of this right here. So words do not pay for my dead people. They do not pay for my country now overrun by white men. They do not protect my father's grave. They do not pay for my horses and cattle. It may have been earlier for some of you, it may have been later, but that was a clear indication of pathos to me. And pathos, pulling at those heartstrings, emotional appeals. So it appealed to my sense of wow, this man really does care about his people. So the chief uses repetition, diction, the choice of good words. I did this without looking at the questions, and that actually ended up being a question. So I didn't mark everything in here, as you can see. I only marked some things that I thought that you guys should focus on. So that would be my tips and tricks of identifying purpose. The next thing I think you should probably pay attention to is perspective, obviously. So these are a little bit longer. Most importantly, identifying the main problem or conflict at hand. Duh. Anytime you're reading, you want to, especially with nonfiction pieces, you have to identify what the conflict is, whether it's from the author's perspective, like they wrote the piece, or somebody else's perspective. You have to identify what the issue is, what they're talking about. Another way to say that is claim. So what's the issue? By doing that, you're allowing yourself to figure out the rest of this. So by identifying conflict, then you can identify the author's feelings or purpose towards that conflict. If you can say like, wow, Chief Joseph was really upset about that. He's a really mad dude. Being able to say he's mad is a lot better than being able to, or saying that he's happy. If you can differentiate between happy and sad, then you're better off than not being able to figure that out at all. Are those perfect word choices? No, but it's better than not being able to identify anything at all. The third thing, consider the specific actions made by the author. When I say actions, I literally mean things that this author tried to do that they talked about. So in the Chief Joseph piece, he talked about going, up here. He talked about going, my scroll's a little fast, asking the government to be treated as all other men are treated. That's a literal call to action. He also talked about talking to, I've seen the great Father Chief. He has talked to friends about this. He's tired when it comes to nothing but broken promises. Like, he's an active participant in trying to fight for this. So he's mentioning things that he's literally gone out and done, seen, so he's sick of it. So anytime that you can mark physical actions, they will kind of point to the call to action that the author's made. Consider the language that conveys the author's feelings and emotions. Anytime you can pick out word choices that help you delineate what that author feels, is going to help you identify the tone of the piece. Tone and mood are usually the most asked questions on standardized testing when it comes to authors' purpose and perspective. So anytime that you can mark those as you're annotating the piece, that would be really helpful. And then finally, consider the other people that have been brought up by the author. So this helps with bias. So if in this case, since it's a persuasive piece, he's going to bring up other members that allow him to further his point. So he brings up President Hayes, other law chiefs that say that are my friends and that I shall have justice. He also brings up his own people, children. There are not too many folks in here that offer their own opinions, but there are many individuals that he brings up that also allow the reader to feel some pathos. And then he finally, in his call to action, which I brought up before, he brings up specifically the government. He's asking the government to say, like, or to make some changes, like, hey, something needs to be done. So really the two parties that he brings up are people that will allow something or can do something about this, and then the other party or parties that make us feel for his situation and want us, that make us want change for him as well. So that also kind of points to, like, hey, this is a persuasive piece, and hey, he's bringing up these people to then drive that home. Sometimes in author perspective pieces, they will bring up other statistics, doctors, researchers that will also help them make their point. So be careful when you're reading these things that all of the people that the author brings up are just pointing to their side of the issue, their conflict of the issue. So an effective arguer will also bring in the other side and then, like, banter back or rebut or refute it. So those are my tips and tricks for author's purpose. I highly recommend looking at my specific tips. I make some specifically to the I-STEP, and then also my annotations. I do go through each of the questions here and well, not every question, but talk about the choices here and even through the written parts. So definitely take a look at those as well. Finally, your independent practice. Definitely take a look at that and try that. And then finally, I did offer a couple other PDFs that will allow you to practice some more, and then a couple links that will also give you some more tips and tricks. So hopefully you found that helpful. And this did not take, well, this took a long time, way more than 5 minutes, but I hope this was helpful for you. Thanks.